Welcome to the Asian Parliamentary Debate 2020, one of the most heated events of Interhouse Fest. I am Anvesh Bhaumik, the event head for Asian Parliamentary Debate. Without wasting any further time, I will straight away pass my floor to Unnava Goswami, the event host. Yes.
A very good evening to one and all present here. It is a real pleasure hosting this event for its impeccable quality of discourse, a format of debate that brings about an upsurge of cognitive thinking and teamwork. The aim is to bring forth the best debater in one's own self, and on that note, it's imperative to state that a good debater is not only a good speaker, a good debater is also a good listener. I would now like to introduce to you the respected moderator of the debate, Raibat Sinha. Raibat is a second-year law student at King's College London and an aspiring barrister. During his school years at DPS Megacity, he was a member of the Debating Society and had represented the school in a number of debates and won the ASISC National Debate Tournament in 2017 for the school. More recently, he completed an internship with noted lawyer Karuna Nandi and also made an appearance at BBC London for an interview. All the credit for which, according to him, goes to his teachers at school and the debating classes he used to attend. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
The debate would be judged by a jury of 2 judges respectively. That being said, let me introduce to you Soham Gupta. Soham passed out from DPS Megacity in 2018. He has participated in debate competitions at the regional level and has won awards in Model United Nations conferences such as JUMUN 2017. He currently studies theology and religion at Oxford University in the United Kingdom. Last but not the least, introducing our next judge, Supreet Kumar Behera. Currently studying computer science at Thapar Institute of Engineering and Technology, Patiala, he passed out from DPS Megacity in the year 2019. An exemplary debater, he has won the ASISC Regional Debate 2018, represented West Bengal and the Northeast in ASISC National Debate 2018, held at Hyderabad, and won multiple MUNs in the Kolkata circuit. Extending a warm welcome yet again to the judges and the moderator, and of course, all the participants from the 4 houses, Agni, Prithvi, Jal, and Vayu. I would now like to hand over the platform to our respected moderator, Raibat Sinha.
Good evening, everyone. I feel like I should clarify. I only told Unnava to say these good things about me, but welcome everyone to the Asian Parliamentary Debate, which is a part of the Interhouse Fest that the school is having. I will be your moderator for this evening. My name is Raibat. And today, the rules for the preliminary round of this debate are quite straightforward. But be that as it may, I feel like I should clarify a few things. Every speaker will be given a total of 4 minutes to speak, which will be divided into a 3+1 format, which basically means that after you're done speaking for 3 minutes, you will hear a sound which is to warn you that you've got another minute left. And then following that extra minute, you will have to complete your speech. This also means that the minimum time for every speech, for every speaker, has to be a minimum of 3 minutes. Following this, every speaker will have a rebuttal round where they will be asked a question from any one of the speakers, and they will have to answer accordingly, and they will be marked on the parameters that have been set by the judges, as have been informed to you already. Before I can begin, I feel like I should mention something about the motion. The motion for today is that this house believes that cancel culture in India has gone too far. Upon deciding this motion, I came across a number of dilemmas, which I think are important to mention before we commence with the debate. It is that the culture of cancelling is an important discussion that needs to be had within the youth itself. It is an important discussion because there are heavyweight arguments on either side of the platform, which is why I was extremely interested in moderating this debate rather than judging it, because I feel like interesting arguments have to be heard on either side. And I, for one, myself, haven't quite made up my mind on where I stand on this issue, right? well, without further ado, I would like to introduce the first speaker for this evening, which will be the speaker from Prithvi House, who will speak in favor of this motion, Sanskriti Bagaria. If the timekeeper doesn't have an issue with the time, then can we begin?
Just 1 second.
While he's fixing the time, I feel like I should clarify a few things more. If in case anyone has any questions, I think this would be the best time to ask me before we go ahead. So please feel free to ask any questions if you've got any. No? Okay.
Sir, I had a question, if that could be clarified. Sir, just like the Oxford style of debate, will be just marked upon the answers and not the questions, right?
Yes, that again, there was a question regarding that. The judges actually initially wanted to mark the questions as well, but I personally thought it to be a little unfair, because not every speaker will get an equal opportunity to ask an equal number of questions, right? And that is not a fault of the speaker, but rather a fault of the moderating. It's not possible in a limited time frame to give every speaker an opportunity to ask a question. So yes, questions will not be marked.
All right, sir. Thank you.
And you've got two very competent judges. I feel like I haven't spoken enough about them. You've got very competent judges, one of whom is studying in Thapa and the other is studying in Oxford University. And I have had extremely fond memories of debating with both of them, and actually winning one debate with Soham as well at Megahertz. I don't know if he remembers, but it was an extremely nice experience. And with Suprit, we went for an inter-school event. We had an amazing time. We had a lot of laughs as well. And yes, and if anyone can judge a debate properly, it would be the two of them. Anvish, are we fine with time?
Moderator, so one clarification. The thing is that do the participants prefer a tap on my desk, or do they prefer a dot on the Google Meet chat? Because both are quite preferable. So I just want to...
I would personally think that a tap on your desk would be more preferred, wouldn't it? Because
yeah, I think so. But can you hear this? Just one testing. You can hear this, right?
I can. Can anyone else hear it?
Yeah, the participants can hear this, right?
I would also request all the other participants to please mute themselves when a participant is speaking. When asked to ask a question or whatnot, then you may unmute yourself. But otherwise, it may cause a lot of disturbance, right?
So moderator, so we're good to go.
All right then. Then Sanskriti Bagaria speaking in favor of the motion. Sanskriti, you have the floor.
Yeah. I am Mrs. Sharma. My son is a chemical engineer. He has recently involved himself in a fight against his college friend. Due to this envy, his friends has defamed him by using his photographs wrongly. His friends has taken a photograph of a girl whose face has been burned due to acid thrown on her and publicly posted the picture, stating that my son, who is a chemical engineer, has thrown acid on her face by making a chemical. People believing so threw sulfuric acid on her and cut his 4 fingers, making him a disabled person. My son, who has worked so hard to get a job of 10 lakh monthly, is now searching for a job of rupees 10,000 monthly. Good evening, everyone. I am Sanskriti Bagaria of class 10H. The topic for the day is cancel culture has gone too far, and I will be presenting my stand for the motion. And throughout the argument, I will show how correct the topic is. The key term of the topic, as I believe, is cancel culture. Cancel culture has nowadays been referred to as the unjust practice of forcefully withdrawing the support for cancelling a public figure or a company when one does not disagree to their proposals, decisions, saying, and proposals. My 3 points of the argument remains. Point number 1, cancel culture is the extortion of human rights on the name of social change. In addition to this, individual's personality is being affected. Now, point number 2, in India, many people are misusing it as a main element of their game plan, and it becomes a root cause of various injustice. For example, a person who is a seductive feminist misused it on an innocent boy. This has led to social injustice and destroyed his family's name. Through mass influencing, cancel culture is often used in politics. It is used by journalists nowadays to cancel an individual. For instance, in Sushant Singh Rajput murder case, many journalists has defamed Riya Chakraborty and even tried to cancel her. In India, cancel culture has been used in every levels. The one who gives information to the people. Yes, the reporters are now using cancel culture to cancel an individual. The uneducated people are being violated. Thus, social injustice is rising every day. What more evidence do you need to conclude that cancel culture has not gone too far? It is the key root of extortion, social injustice, and political belief, and is misguiding the people of India. Therefore, nothing more is required. Really, nothing more. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sanskriti. With that, we come to the end of Sanskriti's speech. If there are any questions, you may either raise your hand, or if you think that I might not be able to see it because there are a lot of people here, you can even put in a chat on your chat box. You can put in a message on your chat box. Yes, we'll be entertaining questions now for Sanskriti's speech. Yes, I can see Shubhayu Chakraborty. Yes.
Ma'am, you gave the example of Riya Chakraborty. So, ma'am, how do you think will a society, will people react on a suspected murder of a very famous celebrity? Rather, won't they defame or say negative points on a suspected murderer?
So, you are saying that how will the public react to a suspected murderer? Is it really confirmed that Riya is the murderer? Is it really that?
Right. Thank you, Sanskriti. We have time to entertain another question, actually. So if there are any more questions, Yashvardhan Verma.
Thank you, moderator, for recognizing me. So my question to you, ma'am, is that, ma'am, I hope that you have heard of the YouTube company All India Bakchod, AIB. So if you since know about it, they have been portraying the message of feminist and have been passing sexist joke about many of the people over here present. So, ma'am, what do you think? What would be the precise method to do so, rather than boycotting their fan media following? It was not us who influenced it. It was the fans who influenced that he should be their YouTube channel should be boycotted by the people.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So basically, your question is how should we react to the YouTube channel, right?
I oppose some form of a cross communication between the speaker and the person asking the question. I would actually appreciate if the speaker simply answered the question that was asked.
Okay. So basically, the question that was asked that how should the people react to the YouTuber? So firstly, the point is I have said that cancel culture has gone too far. It is not that it is bad or it is good. The argument is it has gone too far and it should put a pause of going more far. I hope you get the answer.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. With that, we come to the end of Sanskriti Bagaria's speech. The next speaker will be the speaker from Prithvi House speaking against the motion, which is Shubhayu Chakraborty.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So, members of the House, the agenda stands cancel culture has gone too far in India. Now, I am speaking against the motion. Now, first understand the word cancel culture. It's a very dicey word, just like other American words. It doesn't have a distinct meaning. The way I comprehend it, not a third person will do in the same manner. Now, if in common terms we define it to rather be an online boycotting or a major disapproval over the internet. Now, cancel culture has gone too far in India. It's a very blanket statement, very vague statement, actually, it's given as an excuse by people who think they will be suppressed by the majority, who think they have done some wrongdoings for which they will be targeted, for which the common people will disapprove with it. Now, understand boycotting, criticizing, cancelling, or disapproving are something which are a person's right. A person may not disagree, may boycott with something which they don't like, which may hurt its sentiments, hurt their religious, social sentiments, and they have full right to oppose it. Now, gone too far is actually not the right word. Now, understand that actually there is a significant impact of cancel culture. You can actually cancel a person over internet. It is a self-important declaration of changing your allegiance rather. Now, I have two examples which clearly show that cancel culture has not gone too far and it doesn't have a real life impact. People accused in the Me Too movement of big hashtag like spreading like fire over internet, boycotting, going over there, criticizing people, but did it have any impact? People accusing Me Too movements are making blockbuster movies. People accusing are going and watching the movie twice. Does there any impact? No. Everyone may have watched the movie, watched the series Bad Boy Billionaires. First episode, there is Vijay Mallya. Everybody, the person portraying Vijay Mallya was extremely good. That's another part of the topic. Now understand, he was criticized by his own employees when he removed them without any prior notice. He was boycotted over internet. But did that stop him from calling international singers in his birthday party? No. Was there any impact? No. Now this clearly shows that there is no impact. I would raise this question to the proposition members to answer. That does cancel culture have an impact so that you can prove it to be too far? Now understand, people have authority, people have right to disagree. And many a times, now understand, if we cannot consider trolls a part of cancel culture. Now Riya Chakravarti was trolled with over 1 lakh fake accounts which don't have any proper background. Now, if we cannot include this in cancel culture, normal cancel culture meaning. Now, what I say end with is that cancel culture is very necessary in modern day society. People who are oppressive Dalits who don't have a voice in the society can voice through cancel culture, can voice through social media. And people who are boycotting it, people who are telling it's gone too far, are the privileged classes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shubhayu. With that, we'll be entertaining questions to Shubhayu's speech. Is there anyone who has a question? Kindly mention it as in the form of a message on the chat box so that I can keep count of it. Right. I'd encourage speakers to ask questions, and if they have questions, if they can kindly mention it in the chat box so that I can keep a track of it. Devam, yes. Devam, I'd encourage you to use the chat box.
All right, sir. Sir, since you are the first opposition speaker of the House, sir, how would you define or how would you set the ambit of the particular word of cancel culture? Because it's very important for the progress of the debate and the further debaters who are yet to come. Because since you define that just as losing support, would you like to stick to that particular definition of cancel culture in this particular regard?
But before Shubhayu answers that question, actually, I'd like to make it known to all the speakers who would wish to answer who would wish to ask questions, to keep their questions concise, coherent, and short for the purposes of answering. And on top of that, if you could kindly address the moderator instead of the speaker concerned, that would also be appreciated. The whole medium of conversation or communication has to happen through me, the moderator. So if you could address the question towards me, that would be appreciated. Yes, Shubhayu.
Devam, could you repeat your question? Like there was a bit of connection, like in middle, I couldn't get your question.
All right. Since the particular speaker is the first opposition speaker of the House, sir, it is very necessary that the particular speaker sets up the ambit of particular word of cancel culture so that it is going to channelize the debate in the particular manner, and so that the interpretation is something which is to be taken into account for all the speakers here. So could he clarify the definition of cancel culture?
Now, first, I would like to make it very clear. Like, a word like this, which doesn't have a definitive meaning, the way I comprehend it, a third person won't comprehend. Now, understand cancel culture is a culture where there is a mass disapproval over a very broad topic or a comment or activity by a celebrity, or not even a celebrity, a person, in which a majority disagrees and rather cancels the person, or rather cancels the person in a manner that he's for his wrongdoings. Is cancelled for his wrongdoings. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubhayu. With that, the speeches of Prithvi House come to an end. We move on to the next house, which is Agni House. And I would kindly request the speaker speaking in favor of the motion, Aditya Das, if he could kindly commence with his speech.
Yeah, am I both audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, so shall I start?
Yes.
Yeah, so good evening to one and all present over here. Today, me, Aditya Das, will be speaking for the topic that cancel culture in India has gone too far. So, cancel culture is a thing which has crept into our lives and has become a part of our society due to years of ostracism in our country. Be it in the real world or in the world of social media, we humans are herd creatures. We tend to maintain a similar mindset. We tend to follow what others do. And when we see that a person thinks or views a subject differently than we do, we don't pay heed to that person. But nowadays, not paying heed has been replaced by cancelling out the person altogether, which basically means that if a person who thinks differently or comments on something that may not feel right for us, we boycott that person. Simple. A celebrity gives a controversial speech or posts offensive post on Instagram, he or she faces a public backlash, which is fueled by the politically aggressive social media. Then comes the call for that person to be cancelled out from the society altogether. People, we must understand that in a vast and growing country like India, new thoughts, new ideas are required for the overall development of the country. And if this culture is followed in India in the future, then what this will do is mute citizens, violate free exchange of ideas, and to some extent, hinder the freedom of speech altogether. No one would like to spread new innovative ideas due to the fear of essentially being left out and ignored. The problem with now to come to another topic, the problem with social media is that you could abuse a person for his or her post, which millions might like, and you may go unblamed, but that one comment might destroy the life's work of an individual, a celebrity, or a famous personality. And the sad part is that the person is not even allowed to explain his or her act on his part. He's not allowed to defend. In these trying times, however, it is important to listen to such people or learn from their experiences and try to be on the right side of this struggle, even if it begins and ends on a godforsaken social media platform. These days in society, you can't read news or flip through a gossip magazine without reading about a celebrity losing a TV show or a brand partnership deal. And the people at the receiving end of this cancel culture face consequences that can lead to loss of reputation and a loss in income, which makes the person's recovery extremely hard. The people who cancel out others should realize what they do is not activism. Change is necessary, but forcing change is not. In fact, the cancel culture aggravates the already present intolerant climate in most parts of India. It weakens the norms of open debate, which is a very integral part required for the development of the Indian society. To come to the last part of my speech, I would like to talk about what happens to a person after he or she is cancelled out. Will he or she be able to get back into the society? I repeat, no. He or she will not be able to do that. Not all of us are like the character seen in the movie Padman. We cannot fight our society or family. Most of us do not have that mental strength to go on and give new ideas or innovative ideas in the society. not everyone has the courage to face the backlash that they receive. In a youth-driven country like India, the backbone of the Indian society is the youth, which have a plethora of ideas that will help in the development of a growing country. And the cancel culture continues its way of doing so. Very soon, so many ideas will be lost. And like at the end, to finish my speech, to draw inspiration from Joaquin Phoenix's Oscar-winning speech, after a person makes a mistake or gives a wrong view, which may seem to us, let us give that person a chance to explain. Let us hear out why he is saying for what he is saying. And let us respect that every human right to think in a way, and that's what makes us human special and different. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya. With that, Aditya's speech comes to an end. We'll be entertaining questions. Before I entertain questions, I'd just like to clarify something. There's a very fine line, it's actually not that fine, between MUNing and debating. So in a debate, you ask a question, not a POI or a point of information. And I'm glad that that person, whoever has mentioned POI, corrected himself. But yes, we'll be entertaining questions. Anyone who hasn't asked a question so far? Yes. Yes. All right. Can everyone please switch off their mics? I can see that Akash Kaur has his mic on. Can he please switch off his mic? And mostly everyone else has their mic off. Does anyone have a question to Aditya's speech? Someone who hasn't asked a question so far? All right, we'll be entertaining Yashvardhan Verma.
Okay. Sir, in your current debate speech that you mentioned, sir, you clearly mentioned that the person who we speak bad things about, like he should be boycotted. So don't you agree with the fact that when the same person speaks something feminist or sexist about a person, don't you feel that how the person will feel? And by using his big social media account and being such a huge famous YouTubers or famous personality in a social media, don't you think that his message is portrayed to a mass of people, and in any way he might hurt the sentiment of the people more, because she or he has been seen by many people, by a larger viewers. So what is your comment on that?
Yes,
am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So a YouTube creator, a content creator, gives what his followers, what the people follow him, want from him. What if instead of, I know that the person has a huge reach, he can spread the wrong ideas in a lot of people. But what if instead of boycotting that person, we, the people that follow him, we tell him that this is the content we want. That person, you must understand that a YouTube creator or any other person, when he shares a feminist against a particular person or a class of people, he does that because he sees that he is gaining appreciation due to that. But if the society makes it clear in that we will not have such things, we want this from this content creator, then obviously that content creator will also get a chance to share his ideas, and he or she will also bring out new, good, innovative ideas that the society wants from him.
Thank you, Aditya. I would like all speakers to take note of the fact that a debate undergoes a process of metamorphism. What that essentially means is that speakers must take into account the fact that speakers have spoken before them, and the content of their speeches should very much likely be incorporated into their speeches as well. Their already prepared speeches, albeit very well researched, in my opinion, does not count for much in an actual debate, where one would much rather prefer if you involved yourself into the exchange of arguments and take inspiration from the fact that a speaker has spoken before you and they might have some opinion that might differ from yours, and what is your opinion on that. Essentially, this is a conversation in a formal manner, right? So I would like all speakers to take note of the fact that a lot of what has been said already has evolved from what the motion stood for in the beginning, which is what the point of any debate is, right? So if that could be incorporated in their speeches as well. Right, we move on to the next speaker from Agni House, who will be speaking against the motion, Akash Kaur. Akash, you have the floor. Akash, I don't believe you're audible. Right. I believe Akash has left the meeting. I think it would be beneficial if we continued with the other speakers, and when Akash joins back, we will hear his speech again. So we move on to, okay, Akash is back. Akash, is everything fine with your network? Could you try unmuting yourself? Akash, you're on mute. All right, while he fixes his mic, we will hear the other speakers and we will come back to Akash. So we move on to Jal House, and the speaker speaking in favor of the motion is Konish Boshak. Konish, you have the floor.
All right. Am I audible?
Yes.
Sir, am I audible now?
Akash, we will come back to you. We will come back to your speech. Since I've given Konish the floor, we better listen to him first. We will come back to you. That's all. That's not an issue. All right. Konish, you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Konish Basak of Class 10A. Today's agenda is cancel culture in India, and I will be speaking for the motion. So what is cancel culture? Cancel culture is a form of ostracism in which someone is thrust out of social or professional circles, online or in social media. We are living in an era where public opinion is often loose, transitory, vague, and devoid of adequate figures. Too much information on everything and too little time to form an educated opinion results in cancel culture. The best of people may have flaws, and it's extremely wrong to cancel them for one single reason. I'm free to criticize anybody, but I am not supposed to take the law into my hands. Canceling people just doesn't affect them, but affects their livelihood and their wage. It's absolutely correct to stand up for one's rights, share one's opinion, and reject anything one finds offensive. However, if the shaming cost due to one's right to speech leads to a spiral of silence for another person, it's unfair. Just because one individual is offended, it doesn't necessarily mean the other person is wrong. As a matter of fact, the person who is deemed as the offender may have legitimate reasons beyond the comprehension of the one offended. The information age has made conversation easy and effortless, but as we learn more about each other, we are quicker to dismiss them. Cancel culture, it turns people into activists without a reason, and in its present form, it doesn't have a place for reform. It is exclusionary, disproportionate, and divisive. Seeking to punish people with whom one doesn't agree is utter irrationality. This is collectivism over individual views and ruins the very fabric of individual rights, a key element of democracy. If all what one is doing is casting stones, it's not going to get someone far. Seeking to punish people with whom we are going to disagree is not a legitimate way to reform our problems.
Right, Konish, are you done with your speech?
Yes, I'm done.
Yes, thank you. With that, we'll be entertaining questions for Konish's speech. If anyone has a question, I will reiterate. If they could kindly mention that in the chat box, then that would be great. This is for for the means of a personal convenience, nothing else. Anyone? Question? Right. Konish, would you entertain a question from the moderator or from either of the judges? All right. Devam has a question. Devam has a question, so we won't be needing that.
Yes. Yeah. Since the speaker talked about the fact that this particular concept of cancel culture turns people into activists. So, sir, do you consider making people turning into activists is something which is bad, and the concept of disagreeing is something which is to be looked down upon?
Right.
No, I don't think it's something bad, but activism without a reason is pointless. And in its present form, this kind of activism is not capable of any reform.
Right. Thank you, Konish. Well,
Sir, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Akash, we'll get back to you after we're done with Jal House. Since I began that bracket, I feel it only right to end it before I come to another speaker, if that's fine with you. But before that, I only just noticed that we have a lot of teachers in our presence, and I would like to actually wish them good evening. Gurshali ma'am, I see Sanchari ma'am is also here.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening. Yes, we will move on to the next speaker. But before that, just a slight note of encouragement. In debates in general, since you will be going for debates outside and you will be representing our school, and not only our school, but in the future, you'll be representing many other institutions, God willing. Over there, reading out from a pre-written script or reading out from a note that you'd already prepared is something that perhaps you won't get to hear a lot about, but it is personally frowned upon. So if you genuinely believe in the material that you've prepared in, if you genuinely understand the argument that you're going to argue in front of a podium of a debate, then you should be confident enough to know that argument by heart. You should realize and understand and agree with it personally as well on some level, and then speak accordingly. The rule or the golden rule for any debate, for any speech or for any form of public speaking is that eloquence is not achieved by knowing a lot. Eloquence is actually rather achieved by speaking calmly, speaking slowly, making that other person understand that, yes, this is what I'm trying to talk about. I hope you understand me. All right. So if you can bring that level of personal understanding to your speech, then that would be much appreciated. Yes, we will move on to the next speaker, which is Yashvardhan Verma, who will be speaking against the motion. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, moderator. I'm Yashvardhan Verma, and I will be speaking against. For instance, let us understand what a cancel culture is. Cancel culture is a modern form of ostracism in which someone is thrust out of social or professional circles, online or social media, in the real world or both. Those who are subject to this ostracism are said to be cancelled. Merriam-Webster defines cancel as a stop to giving support to that person, and Dictionary.com defines it as a withdrawing support for that particular person. The expression cancel culture is mostly negative connotations and is commonly used in debates on free speech and censorship. We need cancel culture because it portrays a message that even the famous celebrities may not be spared if they do or if they say or do something immoral according to the beliefs of the people and the constitution. Because generally what happens is that when people often tend to get away with these things, just because they have a fame in the society or due to their wealth, they do not face it. However, when the same thing is said the cancel culture comes to play here, as the people who use the wrong things are not spared. They're boycotted by the followers, and the people, he in a way loses his fame and wealth and suffers the consequences. So in a way, it's a good thing that the message is portrayed to the masses early. Because if the people get away with such a bad by portraying the messages of feminism and sexist, it pushes a bad message on the public that they might never receive justice just because of the person who said the things is famous and because of his wealth. Therefore, now let us emphasize on the AIB example that there is a power hierarchy and this is the only tool available. Ever since allegation allegations of sexual misconduct surfaced against Utsav Chakrabarti, a former employee and frequent collaborator, and separately against co-founder Gursimran Kamba. In October 2018, the creative company Fall from Privacy has been fast and relentless. Tani Bhatt, who is the co-founder and the chief executive, and perhaps the most visible face of the comedy quartet, was undefinedly suspended on October 8 last year after it came to the light that he knew about the allegations against Chakrabarti, and he confronted him in a personal capacity but took no official action. Therefore, the government opposed the company, and once this famous group is now without fame and they have to start fresh, however, the negative impacts with them, it was the only way possible to teach these people a lesson was going against feminism and supporting sexuality. Because now it is the high time now that the message is sent that some things are not for discussion. When it comes to people who say hypophobic things or who engage in sexual misconduct, there's no scope for discussion or defending themselves. That's what cancel culture does. It sends the message that it's simply not acceptable for you to do or say. Thank you.
Thank you, Yashvardhan. With that, we'll be looking for questions to Yashvardhan's speech. If anyone has a question, then this would be the best time to ask. Anyone who hasn't asked a question so far, if you could mention the chat box.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Akash, do you have a question? I would actually encourage everyone to mention it in the chat box so that I can even have a record. So yes, I will allow you this. Yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, according to the fact that you mentioned that, according to the fact that you mentioned that this cancel culture has these effects and these malices. So, sir, why do you think these problems arise in cancel culture? What justification can you give for these problems that you think arises in cancel culture?
Moderator, can you please ask the person to repeat his question, because this question was not that well.
All right. Akash, could you please repeat your question?
Yes, sir. 1 minute, sir. I guess my video is freezing. Sir, can you hear me now?
Yes, you're perfectly audible.
Yes, sir. Considering the fact that you support, considering the fact that cancel culture has come a long way, and you also support it, sir, why do you think that it is a boon instead of a curse?
All right.
Thank you for the question. As I already mentioned in my statement, that the message should be sent that some things are not there for discussion. When a person who says homophobic things or who engages in sexual misconduct, there's no scope for discussion and defending themselves. And as you see, that cancel culture, what basically does is it asks the people to boycott the particular person, because if you have seen in many of the cases in India, especially, you have seen that the people who are very rich and have a fame in the society, like the rich celebrities, they are often not allowed for that much. Their punishment is of course low as compared to our general masses who does not have fame and not that much wealth as compared to them. Therefore, what cancel culture does is that it sends the message that it is not simply acceptable, and you will be paying the consequences for it. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Yashvardhan, for that. At this point, I have a small remark, if that can please be entertained, which is that there are a couple of things which I would like speakers to note on the basis of this motion, since we have already reached more than half of the speakers list, is there any form of a difference between the culture of cancelling and between what it manifests itself into? So what I'm trying to say is there any difference between, let's say, trolling someone online, cancelling them, or as a society taking some form of collective action, or the theory of cancelling, as opposed to the actual form it manifests itself into, which can be in the form of public riots, which can be in the form of, throwing ink on that person's face in a public meeting, and many other such forms. Is there any difference between those things? Or is it one and the same? These are things that I personally think are important questions to answer when we're having a debate or discussion about cancel culture. I also think that it's very important to look at it from a perspective of the youth. Do you think that there is any importance there? I think that these are elements of discussion that have come about in the debate so far, but not many speakers have picked up on these things. So I would appreciate if speakers spoke on these things as well. Right. We move on to Akash, who didn't get a chance to speak earlier. So he will be speaking against the motion.
Sir, can you hear me now?
Yes, I am. I'm being able to hear you. He's speaking against the motion. Yes.
Sir, am I audible and visible? Yes, sir. Sir, just a minute.
And yes, he will be speaking against the motion. He is representing Agni House. And Akash, if you're ready, then the floor is yours.
Sir, am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Akash Kaur and I'll be proposing against the motion at hand. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us first understand cancel culture, which is otherwise defined as consequence, is a social media phenomenon wherein progressive social media users attempt to chip away at the cultural capital or the professional clout of a celebrity who says or does something offensive, maybe racist or sexist, by cancelling them. This culture, which became quite evident after the Me Too movement and the hashtag Black Lives Matter movement, involves the intolerant people making quick and hasty decisions and banishing those who slightly disagree with them. Now, the cancel culture debate often resembles a tug of war between those trying to make proper discussion between people having opposing viewpoints and those who are not willing to compromise their principles by a little bit. But ladies and gentlemen, understand that this very discrimination makes these celebrities who are subjected to it headstrong and helps them to face the grim truth of the world. It helps them to realize the real picture and enables them to act accordingly. It matures them and opens up new pathways for them to discover themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, let us take up the example of the Kapoors, of the famous actors like Kapoors, the Johars, Bhatts. They all have been supported by the parental figure, but now due to this cancel culture, they are at the receiving end over the nepotism issue. We must also understand that it was this cancel culture that highlighted the nepotism, which was quite evident but left untouched in the Bollywood industry. It was this cancel culture that led to the arrest of Salman Khan in 1990s when he killed an endangered animal on the sets of his film. It was this cancel culture that led to his arrest in a drink and drive case when he ran over a migrant family living sleeping alongside the pavement. It was due to this cancel culture that we were able to avenge the death of our beloved actor Sushant Singh Rajput. Thus, concluding my speech, I believe that cancel culture hasn't gone too far and might be the silver lining in a dark cloud and might be the boom to our curse of a social hierarchy.
Thank you, Akash. With that, we're looking for questions to Akash's speech. Oishani has a question. Oishani? Yes.
Okay, thank you for your speech. So since you brought out Bollywood with reference to nepotism and everything, so I would like to highlight something. We know that Bollywood is filled with politics and nepotism. So there are certain families who have much more power than the others, and they are rivals. So suppose Sushant Singh Rajput, he was a newcomer and he was good at acting. So they might want to eliminate them, and certain families could have done something, and they could simply allegedly frame someone else, another actor, for their crimes. So in this case, the general public doesn't know exactly who is the criminal. In this case, how do you think that cancel culture will work?
Akash, before you answer, I would again urge all speakers to keep their questions concise and coherent and short. No, that's fine. Yes.
Sir, may I answer?
Yes.
Ma'am, this is the time, or this is the place where cancel culture actually comes in action. Okay, suppose another person has been accused of doing something which you proposed. Someone or the other will leak this on a unanimous basis on an online platform, which will be reacted upon by various other followers of that particular social figure, and will obviously be taken account by this by the ones who proclaim themselves to be the epitome of justice in these online mediums, and will be judged upon by millions of people, and hence slowly over time, as we have seen, that these issues will come up and will be resolved, like the case of Sushant Singh Rajput.
Thank you, Akash. With that, we move on to the final house for this evening, which is Vayu House. We will have the speaker speaking in favor of the motion, Oishani Pal. Oishani, if you're ready, then the floor is yours.
Thank you. Inappropriate or offensive to the public. A mass of the population boycott the products, movies, etc. associated with these people, purposefully bring down the career. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Oishani Pal, and today I would be giving my perspective as to how cancel culture has gone too far in India. For instance, let us first take the Sushant Singh Rajput suicide case. Bollywood personalities like Karan Johar, Alia Bhatt, Sonakshi Sinha have been on the receiving end of cancel culture due to the nepotism issue raised by this case. There is literally no evidence which is given by the law stating exactly what happened. And sadly, the entire Indian film industry is an intricate world filled with nepotism and politics, where even innocent people could be, framed and brought into these conspiracies and framed. And certain ordinary people, based on this unreliable information, form their stance against public figures. Certain other people, like-mindedly, may follow them, and the others, without any personal research, simply follow the trend. If people boycott the movies associated with these personalities, irresponsibly cancelled, then the entire work of the rest of the movie team goes to waste, which is not justified at all. Another example is the recent Titan watch advertisement, which was aimed at promoting Hindu-Muslim unity. However, this backfired as the people claimed it promoted love jihad, resulting in the boycott Titan movement. In this case, everybody simply forgot that Titan is a product of Tata, whose contributions to Indian society are very generous, and everybody knows that. So why is this happening? In recent years, social media usage is on a high rise, and it is easy for anyone to post their opinions, perspectives, etc. without any fear of repercussions. Keyboard warriors are on the rise, and opinions spread like wildfire. Moreover, in India, there is a very low literacy rate and awareness among masses, making them gullible to rumors and trends, who can be manipulated by interested parties having their own agendas to fulfill. Furthermore, in massive and diverse populations of India, promoting a cancel culture can result in gaining size of that movement and can lead to social instability, chaos, and riots. The general Indian population nowadays is not responsible enough to have this power of ruining the careers and lives of individuals just like that. They imagine the entire cancellation of a person to be a trend which anyone could follow, and majority don't conduct enough personal research. Can you imagine how much trauma a person on the receiving end of such cancel culture go through? Yes, I agree. There are certain hypocrites among the public figures who do things for their own personal benefit, and cancel culture has its own silver linings in such cases. However, excessive cancel culture is detrimental to a society as a whole and is not a solution in every case. It inhibits growth and independent thinking, as well as shatters the lives of many innocent people. It can only result in an intolerant society, easily triggered by even the slightest controversy to their own opinion. The people are unnecessarily turned into intolerable activists who don't even try to view and comprehend the problem from any other perspective but their own. In today's popular game of Among Us, where people need to figure out who are the imposters and turn them out, we do not hesitate in such a game to randomly accuse a person A to be the imposter and throw them out of the game just because another random person spread a feeble rumor that person A vented or killed someone. It's a game and it's meant for fun. But have we ever thought what it would be like if the same thing happened in real life and people get accused by the population and majority don't even have credible evidence to do this thing? Thank you.
Thank
Sir,
you.
can I ask a question?
Before any question can be asked, I would much rather appreciate, I'm reiterating again, if you could kindly mention that in the chat box instead of picking up your hand or speaking into the mic. And I will not be entertaining questions which were asked during that person's speech. I think one owes it to any speaker to let that person finish before asking a question. So if a question was asked in the middle of that person's speech, I will not be entertaining it. Sorry. With that, are there any questions?
Sir, can I ask?
I would urge you again, I'm allowing this, but could you please mention it in the chat box? There's one right next to you.
Actually, my chat box part is not opening. That is why I couldn't do it.
All
I
right.
was having... Yes, sir.
That's fine. Yes, Akash.
Ma'am, in your speech, you mentioned the fact that how the ones who are on the receiving end of this cancel culture are being terribly affected. But we must, but ma'am, how do you justify the nepotism that has been going on for ages in the Hollywood industry by the Johars, the Bhatts, and the Khans, due to which many stars, many young talents couldn't shine and had to give up, just like Sushant Singh Rajput?
Yes.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that we shouldn't incorporate cancel culture in controversial places because we aren't sure that who is the actual criminal. So it could be somebody, but and then they might accuse somebody else, and in turn we are. What am I saying? Okay, so suppose there is one person, the Johars, for example, they're doing nepotism and they do something criminal and they blame it on somebody else. So the population simply reads the news and then they're gullible enough to believe in it and they simply cancel that person. So they are on the receiving end and they feel bad. So unless we know exactly who is the person, we cannot incorporate cancel culture. It's going too far. Hello? I hope I answered your question.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, sir, can I have a follow-up?
Moderator, sir, can you hear us?
Oh, he left.
I would like everyone to give him a moment. He will be back. He's facing some issues. Akash, could you please mute yourself till then?
All right. Urnavar, has Rabat left?
Yeah, I think he's facing some connection issues.
I lost my connection for a quick second. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
you are Rabat.
Right. Very sorry. I just didn't get the end of Oishani's question, but if she's done with it, can we move on?
Yes, sir. She was
Absolutely.
over with her.
Yeah, all right.
Carry on.
All right.
Right.
Yes, sir.
All right, then. We will move on to the next speaker, which is the final speaker for this evening, Devam Sarkar, who will be speaking against the motion. Devam, the floor is yours.
So hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Devam Sarkar and today I would be opposing the motion at hand. Now at the very outset, let me address three very important points here which has been risen during the course of this debate. Firstly, that is the misleading definition of or the misleading understanding of cancel culture in the first place. So people have defined or understood the cancel culture as losing support or disapproval. Now understand that this is a very flawed understanding of this concept, because cancel culture is not just the disapproval or losing support. It's basically generalizing the mistakes of a particular individual. Because if you generalize one mistake of a particular individual and consider the fact that all the other activities that it does is also wrong based on a previous misact or misconduct, that is what is called as cancel culture. Now moving on, another very important thing that has been crawled up, that people have been debating upon the very fact that whether cancel culture is good or bad. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand that we are not here to question the moral ethics of cancel culture or whether cancel culture is correct or wrong. We are here as to debate whether it has gone too far or not. And lastly, people have been drawing a very fine line between criticism and cancelling. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand that there is a very stark difference between criticism and cancelling. Criticism can be constructive criticism. Criticism can be taken in a positive way. However, cancelling is generalizing. Generalizing is something which is not looked forward in a very nice way in the society. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with that, let us understand something very important. That is, firstly, we have to understand that cancelling a particular public figure based in the online platform or in the offline platform based on what he says or what he does is very subjective and is a question of relativity, right? We have to understand that whenever we are judging somebody or whenever we are calling his or her art as offensive, it is not always black and white. For example, let us say a speech. How do you conclude that a speech is a dangerous speech or a hate speech? It's never black and white. It's gray. It lies in the gray spectrum. So it's relative. And that is the very reason why I say that cancel culture has not gone too far, because it's completely on the interpreter as to how he sees it. And the question of going too far is very relative and it's completely on the interpreter. So we are not here to provide the stance as to, and it's not correct to provide the stance and to say in front of the house that the concept of cancel culture has gone too far. Nextly, let me point out something very important. That is the concept of freedom of speech, right, and expression. We have to understand that if you can say that something is good, you also have the right to say something is bad, right? And that is what is encompassed in the very concept of freedom of speech and expression. Now, we have to understand that if we cancel a particular person and he gets offended by it, it's something which we do not need to consider or take into account, because we are using our freedom of expression. Now, another thing which has crawled up or in the course of this debate is the fact and is the very concept of mental health, right? So we have to understand that mental health is a very important facet that has to be addressed when we talk about cancelling out a particular individual. We have to understand when we cancel out the mental health, there is a very blow to the mental health, and it's something and it's the very cause of the high suicide rates and all these issues. Now, understand that when a particular individual is doing something wrong, what we are basically doing is we are judging the art, right, and not the artist. Now, we have to understand that if by judging the art, the mental health of a particular individual is getting affected, it's the fault of it's a fault on the part of that particular individual and not us who are criticizing that particular person. It's like you're blaming the drug addict but not the drug dealer, right? So lastly, a very important concept that I have to address, which I started off by saying, is the concept of generalizing, right? For example, let us take upon the concept of international relations and understand what has happened during this lockdown is the fight at the LAC with China. Now, due to the fight with China at the LAC, what has happened is the government has banned several apps. So what basically India is doing is cancelling out a particular country just because of the fact that they have been at war or have taken aggressive steps. Now, this is generalization, because what the government is doing is cancelling out the apps that is banning the apps instead of taking proper steps to control and defend the country at the LAC itself. So as a speaker of the opposition, what I suggest, or in fact urge the house, is to not generalize, is is to very much understand the particular house that generalization is wrong. However, cancel culture as a concept is very right inherently. Right. With that, I come to the end of my speech. I rest my case, but certainly not my sons. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Devam. I'd like the judges to.
Yes, could you give us some time?
Yeah, sure. It would be really great if Devam, you could turn your microphone off for some time. And judges, you can discuss your scores in the group that we have provided.
Okay, just one question. Wouldn't there be a question answer round after Devam's speech?
I think there must be. We should give Rabat some time to join in again, I guess. His network has faltered again.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah.
Yes, am I audible? I'm very sorry.
Yes, you are back on. Yeah.
My getting disconnected, but apologies. What I was saying was, I hope that I will just make a few very minute policies very clear, since we are having a final round tomorrow as well. Since there is a prescribed time limit for a speaker, it is expected that the speaker will finish his or her speech within that time limit. If that is not done, then what happens as a result of that is I will not try to stop the speaker from speaking, because I try not to, unless it exceeds to a time that is unfathomable. But I will urge the judges to take note of the fact that if a speaker has extended time, then the points or the arguments that are made after that time has been exceeded should perhaps not be looked at with equal scrutiny, simply because that is what happens in debates in general. We have all made these mistakes as speakers when we become overeager to put forward an argument, and it's just the price you pay. But yes, while the results are being tabulated, I'd just like to formally give my moderator's remarks on...
Sir,
yes.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but I don't think the questions on my speech were entertained.
Oh, I'm very sorry, Devam. We will entertain questions for Devam's speech. I'm extremely sorry. It skipped my mind. Yes. We will entertain questions for Devam's speech. So if they could be asked in the chat box, that would be appreciated. Are there any questions to Devam's speech? Anyone who hasn't asked a question so far? Right. We will ask Konish. Konish,
am I audible?
Yes, you are.
My question is, when the thing when somebody gets cancelled is when they're making a controversial statement or they're offending someone. But isn't this akin to the situation that I get a wound and instead of treating it, I just chop off my limb? Isn't that too extreme for the person or the offender?
Right, Devam.
Sir, could you rephrase that question in a more better manner, if possible, and not in a rhetorical manner?
Isn't cancel culture a way of punishment which is too extreme than the offense?
Right. Now, firstly, the concept of being extreme again is relative. What a particular individual considers as extreme might not be same with everyone. Right. Now, the concept of extreme and cancel culture is not the same. Right. Because see, when you cancel somebody, the consequences of cancelling obviously differs from person to person. So whether the consequence is extreme or not is also dependent upon the fact that how well the individual takes in that cancelling on his part. So I don't think it's something which is lies on the same beam balance. I hope you're answered.
Right, Devam. We actually have been asked another question by another speaker. Devam, would you like to entertain another question, if that's all right?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Yes, Sanskriti. Sanskriti has a question.
Yeah. Don't you think that cancel culture has gone too far? Because people at all means, or journalists or people who is like to the person who is supposed to give us the news is saying that this person should be cancelled, and people are saying yeah sure, and they are really cancelling the person. Do you think it is right or not?
Ma'am, I don't think I got your question. Could you please?
Sanskriti, could you allow me to rephrase that question on your behalf?
Yeah, sure, sir.
I think what Sanskriti is trying to ask you is that, do you think that the lack of neutrality within the media among journalists is contributing and fueling cancel culture in a direction which is unnecessary, hence taking it too far?
No, with respect to media, things work a bit differently, because media is, again, it's a very different channel, right? Now what happens is, in media there are several external factors coming into play: political inclinations, the incident itself, how it's covered, and obviously at the end of the day how it's portrayed. Now the way I connect cancel culture and media itself is something like this. The thing is, when a particular media channel or a journalist portrays something, he is giving his or her opinion. So it's a monologue, because you can only see one side of the coin. Now what happens is, when you try to understand the other side of the coin, that is when you completely understand the scenario. So my obvious answer over here would be, it's better to give your judgment once you have seen both sides of the coin, and then you form the opinion. And that is when criticisms actually comes into play, and that is when the criticism actually helps, even on the part of the individual who it is directed to. So I hope your answer.
Right, Devam. Thank you so much. With that, we come to the end of the question answers and the speeches of all the speakers. I would just like to formally submit the moderator's remarks for today. This is a topic that has been dealt with in a lot of dining room conversations and in a lot of political important conversations among politicians as well. And I think it's very important that students, more than anyone else, recognize the severely nuanced forms of expression that are associated with cancel culture. So let me give you a few examples. Someone spoke about the Tanishq ad. I was actually a little surprised that the Tanishq ad wasn't being spoken of very often, because it has a lot to do with the fabric of cancel culture that we get to see in our country here today. And that is why the motion has been framed with respect to India only, because the way cancel culture manifests itself over here is very different than how it manifests itself in the Occident, for instance. All right. How a Hollywood star would be dealt with on account of allegations of sexual abuse would be very different to how someone would be dealt with on allegations of sexual abuse in our country, right? So with respect to the Tanishq ad, I felt personally that there is a huge difference between what cancel culture manifests itself into in our country as opposed to what the theory of cancel culture is. Cancel culture as a theory, like someone mentioned, came up very, in a very radical format after the Me Too movement and after the BLM, the Black Lives Matter movement. It has shaped into various, sub-bracketed movements over here in India, with the Dalit Lives Matter movement, with the Adivasi Lives Matter movement. We get to see so many actresses, celebrities, journalists, businesswomen, businessmen coming out with their stories of being sexually harassed by their seniors on account of the fact that, there is a dynamic. There is undoubtedly a very senior-junior dynamic present in Indian context, whether it's in a workplace, whether it's in a restaurant. You go to a restaurant with someone who's a lot elder than you, there is a senior-junior dynamic. And unfortunately, a lot of these seniors in positions of power and authority misuse the fact that they are entitled to some form of authority over their subordinate, right? And that has been held accountable. What is ugly, what has gone too far, is the forms that it manifests itself into. Because something like a public riot, something like entering a Tanishq store, verbally and quite physically abusing the manager who had nothing to do with the ad that was posted, simply because his name has a certain religious connotation to it, is simply unconstitutional. That has nothing to do with cancel culture. Let's be very clear. It has nothing to do with the culture that propagates it. It has all to do with the violence, the sheer unconstitutionality that people tend to take themselves upon. All right. We are a country that is governed by emotions. We are a country that is extremely emotional, which I think is one of our strong suits. But what happens, unfortunately, is that these emotions tend to govern our bad decisions as well. So when you see conversations around, let's say, the death penalty or the legalization of certain scheduled drugs, you see people thinking about it very radically. You see people thinking about it very on a very personal level. But why is that? Why is the discourse between anything so personal in a country like ours? It is because the change in a country as big as ours, as diverse as ours, needs to happen on a representative basis, at least in my opinion. You have people at the top making decisions about people at the bottom, all right, and not including any person from the bottom to join in that discussion, to join in a discussion that will affect him at the end of the day, right? So you have an entire section of people talking about how picking up sewage from bins is something that, cleanses your soul and is something that you should be proud about doing because you're contributing to society. But you don't include a person who's actually participating in the action to come in and join and give his or her perspective as to how it impacts them, their family, their economy on a daily basis, their personal economy by that, I mean. So cancel culture has far-reaching consequences, in my opinion. But what has gone too far, whether it has gone too far or not, is still up for debate. I haven't quite made up my mind. But one of the speakers today mentioned that, it is because of cancel culture that Salman Khan was arrested. It is because of cancel culture that Sushant Singh Rajput was avenged. I personally think that it's because of the legal system that our country has built. It is because a person has committed a crime, the police has investigated, and legal course is followed. What happens as a result of cancel culture is the fact that a Salman Khan can get that much traction on media, but a small businessman's son, because of some political connect, can get away with a similar crime, right? And not have it talked about on big media platforms. So these are questions which cancel culture needs to address. The questions about the Tanishq ad. Why is it so that any similar ad with a topsy-turvy religious equation, without getting too much into it, would not have been opposed in a similar manner, right? But yes, that's not to say that cancel culture hasn't gone too far. I do think that there are instances where many celebrities, many people in positions of power and public presence are extremely afraid to put forward their opinions on a particular subject simply because they fear prosecution from the public mass. And that is, I think, a question for our governance. That is a question for our legal system, and not a question for the people who propagate cancel culture. Those are my remarks on the basis of today's debate. I think it was extremely, very welcoming experience for me personally. I became extremely nostalgic because I remember a time when we used to speak in front of O'Brien Sir's class, and that used to be the most intimidating podium I stood on. And I remember I had the opportunity to meet a judge of the Supreme Court in the UK last year and deliver a speech in front of him on the laws surrounding rape in the United Kingdom, because I'm working on issues of marital rape currently. And I delivered a speech, and he came up to me, which was a very intimidating experience in itself. And he asked me, what provoked you to draw in a parallel between, your country's rape laws and our country's rape laws? And I told him that simply because our country's rape laws, or our country's laws, criminal laws in general, are far more progressive than yours. They are far more nuanced. They are far more accountable than your country has ever deliberated upon. And that's because in our country, the no means no concept does not work. It has to be a yes means yes. It cannot be since I said no, then it's a no. It has to be, I have to give clear, unequivocal consent that yes, that is the nature of this country's law. So when it's so entrenched into the fabric of our country, I think that makes any youth or students of our school, for instance, very, very deep thinking, conscience building individuals, which I tend to see, which I tend not to see in a lot of students over there. And I gave all the credit to my school over there because I feel like it is because of people like O'Brien sir, it is because of people like Boishali ma'am, Sanchari ma'am, that I was urged to read a lot. I was urged to formulate opinions from a very early age. And I'm extremely proud about whatever opinion I have. I might be wrong, but I'm extremely proud of the fact that this is a well-formulated, thought-out opinion. And I think I see a lot of that in the students here today. And I'm very glad. So that's all from my end. If we're done tabulating the results, are we? Urnav, could you?
Yeah, I would request the judges as well as the moderator to kindly check the group that is there for the tabulation. If you could forward your scores there, so we could finally add them up and then announce that. Yeah.
Soham and Suprit, if you could kindly do the needful. I have no role to play there. Yes, but in the meanwhile, could we, since we have some time to kill, could we hear from people and their experiences debating in this school? There have been extremely fond memories that I have had. I don't quite know how many people from this lot are first-time debaters, how many have attended debates before. I used to be one of those people who used to be extremely proud of the fact that I was an MUNer initially, because that was the cool thing to be. That was where the cool kids used to hang. And increasingly, I sort of started to shift away from that narrative and push myself towards debating more. But yes, is there anyone who would like to share perhaps an instance where, they attended a debate and what they felt about it? There are lots of opinions that I used to have about how debates were conducted in our city. I remember Pratyush, the head boy in our batch. Pratyush and I had gone for a debate in a school once, and it was being judged by the Calcutta Debating Circle. And we had delivered our speech, and we unfortunately did not win. And we went to the judges and we asked, so why is it that we did not win, or what went wrong? And the judges said, you lacked a lot of humor in your speeches. Your speeches perhaps should have been a little more humorous. And at the time we were very, no, I don't agree with that, your young blood or whatever. So, but now I tend to think back and think that, it's really up to an individual how they see or what they expect from a debate. I might have certain expectations. I don't expect that another person will have quite the same expectation from another debater's speech, right? So I do think that results of debates should not be taken to heart, because that is, again, a collective opinion of just two people. And any other person anywhere else on planet Earth might think differently about how you performed. That's what I personally think. There are lots of people who appreciate, quotes and who appreciate, instances, descriptive imagery in their debate speeches. There are lots of people who expect to hear jokes, even if we're talking about something as serious as the death penalty. So you will come across many people who will have different expectations, and it's just a matter of, trying to encompass all the qualities that are required in a public speaking platform. But yes, if there is anyone, Urnava I know has debated quite a bit. I do recognize a few faces over here. I recognize Aditya. I remember him starting debating just as I was about to leave school. So yes, if anyone has any experiences that they would like to share, any questions they have from me, from the judges, anyone at all, please feel free to ask. Anyone? No one?
I would like to ask the moderator something. What I personally...
Rebat always. Don't call me moderator now. Yes.
Okay, Rebat. So basically what I noticed throughout the debate was, which was extremely unique about this debate, that every speaker who spoke, they had their own style of articulation, their own rhythm of speaking, and the points that they highlighted were like, they rarely overlapped. Each of them had their own viewpoints which they put forward. So, like, drawing a concluding line there, you added your own thoughts on it. So how do you think, like, how wide was the spectrum of this debate, like from point A to point B?
You mentioned two very interesting things, and I'd like to touch upon them because I feel it's very important. I feel like if you want to know the content of your debate speech, you shouldn't come to someone like me, but I could definitely help with the delivery of a debate speech, say, for instance. All right. So you mentioned two important things. One is that none of the points overlapped and that everyone had a different style of articulation. And I really appreciate the latter. I appreciate the latter because I have a particular style of debating. I have a particular style of speaking, which I don't expect anyone else to emulate or impersonate because they might not be comfortable with that. But one thing that I would stress on, because I have been told time immemorial by all my mentors, by anyone who has ever trained me to speak publicly, that the secret to a good speech does not lie in having 10 points. All right, you don't need to have 10 points to make a fabulous debate speech. Oh, I have 10 arguments. I have thought so much about it and I'm backed by statistics, research, this. No. What you need to do is speak slowly. That's the simplest thing I could tell you. Speak slowly, believe, like, train yourself to believe in what you are saying. Sometimes you might have to speak about something that you vehemently oppose, all right, and that you don't agree with. But try to train yourself. We taught this in law school as well, to try and train ourselves to believe in our client's argument. You might disagree with it on a personal basis, but over here you're here representing your house, your school, yourself sometimes. So speak slowly. You might not be able to cover all your points, but whatever points you do have, you'll be able to convey them thoroughly. All right, and I think that matters more. But yes, coming to the point that none of the points overlapped, I think that is credit to two things. Firstly, the fact that the general motion in general is quite ambiguous. It's very, like one of the speakers mentioned in the beginning, it's quite vague. All of the terms are quite vague. Cancel culture, vague term. Gone too far, vague term, right? So what happens is any good motion, you will have to see it, like, what is the way to recognize that this motion is a very well debatable motion? You have to see if the word or the terms being used in the motion are value neutral, which basically means that there are ways of arguing against it which could align itself with ways of arguing in favor of it. You can find a speech which speaks in favor of the motion being quite similar to a speech which speaks against the motion. All right. Because of the content and the way it was framed. So value neutral motions are always welcome in any debate because you can mold them in any way you want. You can speak about it in any way you want. And that's always appreciated. And one thing that I have to really give credit to all the students who spoke today was that none of them, at least if they were afraid of speaking or in front of a lot of people or virtually or whatever, it didn't quite come across as such. And I really feel that is very creditworthy because I have, initially when I started debating, I used to suffer from stage fright. I remember my first ever debate speech. I didn't know what I said, I mumbled something on the stage. People looked at me in disgust and cluelessness, and I just came out of the stage and I started apologizing. I was like, oh my God, no one's ever going to send me for debate again from the school. It went terribly, but it's not such, right? Like that you overcome that with practice. But it seemed like a lot of the debaters were very well seasoned, very experienced, much more than I could have hoped to be at their age or in their class. So that was definitely, watching that was definitely worthwhile.
Totally. And also, since the judges will be requiring around 5 more minutes to come up with the results, and a lot of teachers are present here today, so my greetings to all of them.
Yes. Could I request any teacher to give their thoughts on today's debate? Quite a few of them were present today. Sharmila ma'am, what did you think of today's debate? If anybody could.
I think you should ask other teachers as well. We had a chat among ourselves before the beginning of the debate, and I feel very proud of my students. And when I say my students, I mean The ex-students, they are never ex, actually they are always our students, and they continue to remain as important for us as the present ones, and extremely proud for each one of them, and congratulations for preparing so well. The organizers, it's been a whole day affair, and doing something online was very challenging, and on the spot taking decisions, something went wrong with the network, this, that, immediately there was a solution to it. So I appreciate a lot. There's a lot to learn from these young ones. We adults should, salute that. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Learning every day. I think there are many teachers who can speak and put in their words. I can see so many teachers here. Malavika ma'am is there. Sanchari ma'am was there. All of them.
I would just like to add something. When I
Yes.
heard about the topic, cancel culture, actually I was thinking, what will my students speak about? But really speaking for and motion, as Rebat mentioned, value neutral things actually make it very important, where you can turn the face either for or against the motion. And many children, actually many students have actually spoken really, that is, the thoughts, the mindset, it actually speaks a lot about what their upbringing is and how they have, molded into individuals with such quality and, of thoughts. When I was your age, I didn't even know how to speak properly, maybe. The way you people have been doing it is so confident, full of confidence, full of life, and you mean what you say. So that is what made a lot of difference. I was feeling very proud, and I was feeling very happy that all my children, in fact, Rabat, you moderated it so well.
Thank you.
It was really a very good moderation, and all the children spoke very, very well. I'm so proud of you. Thank you, children, for a wonderful experience.
I'm really very happy that you brought out this point, which I always believe. Your opinion, whether it's a student between student or teacher between teacher and student, whatever, it's a relative opinion. What you think is right may not be right for somebody else, but how convincing you are in a very calm and composed manner, you are able to put forward, because the art of debating is all about how you are able to convince your opponent, isn't it?
Yes.
That's really very correct. And all of us have a lot to remember from this.
Yes, ma'am. Another thing that, like after the debate, that our students like this thing, with the confidence, they actually, present themselves. Like everything has two sides, and the way they deliberate on the matters, I mean, that is really commendable. That is really commendable. I mean, the issues that they, and those issues are pretty much relevant, and that's kudos. And you all are doing very good job, and we are also learning so many things from you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, ma'am. It was really a learning experience, and I found our children confident and with a lot of conviction. They've spoken, a lot of research work put into it, and we got to see another side of Rebat altogether as a moderator. So we've heard him as a debater, as a MUNer, but then it was another side of Rebat to explore. So it was really nice. And of course, I have no words to say how you put this entire program in place. And Sharmila ma'am has already said the kind of confidence and, coordinating and organizing everything is just really kudos to you all. Thank you for doing it so well.
Okay, so coming
I'm
back
very
to
sorry
the
to
debate again.
cut this. I'm very sorry to cut this interesting conversation, but we have only 5 minutes remaining of our recording, so the judges will announce the results soon.
Right.
Okay,
Never
okay.
take over.
Let's welcome our judges.
Soham and Supreet, if you are ready, you can come up with the results.
So are both of you ready with the results?
They'll be here in a minute. Just,
All right. Okay.
yeah.
I feel like I'm talking a lot and I don't want to keep talking, so I will.
Okay, so just to put forward the division of the results, out of the 4 houses, we will have the scoring of each individual house, and the top 2 teams will be selected for the final round. And out of all the speakers who spoke, 2 speakers of each house, 4 houses in total, we will also have an award for the best speaker.
The judges will be joining us any minute.
Tomorrow it starts at 10:15, isn't it, Urnavu? Yeah, tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am, 10:15 for tomorrow.
Arav, have we got all the programs recorded for the day? Arav? Because I need to send that link because I had invited everybody for that YouTube channel which did not work ultimately. Yeah, I know that, but we need to send these through the links to the others. Yes.
Hello everyone. We are extremely sorry for the delay in results. You guys did extremely well, and it was an extremely tough decision to come up with winners and losers. But before we come up with the results, I'd just like to congratulate each and every participant. You guys debated really well, and I'm extremely satisfied with the level of debate that the participants have come up with. And I'm extremely hopeful for the future of the debating society of the school. Soham, do you want to add anything?
Sorry?
Do you want to add anything?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I just arrived on the scene.
We'll hand it over to Rajan.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So yes, we will be coming up with the result. The best speaker for today is Aditya Das from Agni House. And the 2 houses, yes, you can have a round of applause for Aditya. And the 2 houses in no particular order. Actually, I will give you this particular order. The house that came second today is Agni House, and the house that came first in today's debate is Vayu House. So these are the 2 houses that move on to the final round. And thank you everyone for participating. And like I said, it was a very enriching debate. I got to learn a lot myself, and I hope everyone else did as well. With that, I believe we'll be meeting these 2 houses tomorrow as well for the final round. I hope to see all of you there. The rules of the next round, along with the motion and everything else, will be clarified later. I believe you know most of it already. Yes.
Right. The 2 houses that have won, congratulations to them. And also, thanks to all of you who participated. It was a really great experience. And I would like to inform to each and everyone present here, be the teachers, judges, moderators, and the participants. Tomorrow we meet at 10:15 for the final round, where the agenda, the rules, regulations, everything will be informed to you via the groups. So that's it for today.
Thank you very much. See all of you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, judges.
Arav, is the recording done?